Hey everybody, sorry I didn't do a video last weekend. Um, my girlfriend and I went to Tennessee last weekend. My uncle had passed away the month before, and the service was that weekend. So we were down for that. And yes, I understand everybody's gonna be like, oh, my condolences for your loss. Um, Thank you, but the loss really wasn't for me. I First of all, my uncle was 95 when he passed away, so he'd had a very long, healthy life, very full life, and the loss really goes to the town that he was in, they lived in. He uh, he was a firefighter, and he was a firefighter in New Jersey and then he was the firefighter in Tennessee, and the town really came out for the service. The service was at the uh, held at the fire hall, and then they did the procession through town to the next town over on the other side of the mountain to where the graveyard was. And the whole town, when we left, like all the stores along the town, you could tell that everybody pretty much like went out along the road and was like showing their respect and whatnot. It was really touching. So, so like I said, I know I'm going to get a lot of people like, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. As the loss is for uh, the town of Townsend, Tennessee. They are the ones that are feeling the loss of him and not me. So I know that may seem slightly cold, but I'm trying to put it in perspective, if you will. Okay. Um, so But no, we weren't able to. I wasn't able to do a video. We did go to a couple places in Tennessee while we are there. Very nice, beautiful. I mean, it's the area of Tennessee where him and his wife retired to. Very, very nice, very, very beautiful. So, yeah, I know. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. I'm seeing this where it blends a lot. It really blends in here. So I'm gonna have to do something. Right now, I'm doing is just I'm stopping short of where it meets, where this post would meet the boards. So we'll see. That might be something I'm gonna have to fix uh, off camera. So for right now, I'm just gonna pull it short there, and just tone the rest of it. But I do think it's necessary to put tone in this white on the side of the beam to tone it down, because otherwise it's just a stark white. So. But but I was able to post each day while I was away uh, signed comics. And so we're going to start this. This is week 38, and it is day 257 through 263. And we start 257 with the Soviet Super Soldiers #1, signed by Fabian Nicasia and Angel Medea. Uh, I remember, like, this was one of those first time I had the opportunity to meet Fabian. This is one of those books I had him sign. And remember, Fabian's done so much body of work over the years. But when I went to have him sign books, this was one of them that I had him sign along with the JLA Convergence or Justice League Detroit. And but one thing I really liked about this book, and again, this is one of those books where it's like it's not a Superman book, it's not a Captain Marvel's book, or a Spider-Man book. This is the Soviet Super Soldiers. Uh, I remember when this came out and seeing it on the shelf, I was like, "Wow, this looks really cool." And it was a one shot, but it was still a cool story, and just like a nice way to introduce you to the characters if you didn't know them. So. And the artwork by Angel Medea is also one of my first introductions to Angel's work. I think I'd already known about Angel from Dreadstar, and so this was like one of those. I recognized the artwork right off the bat. Angel, I have Angel. If you look at his work, okay, he knows anatomy, and it's one of those deals where like you gotta be good at drawing anatomy to be able to break the rules. And the reason why I say that is because Angel has the ability to uh, over exaggerate and animate the characters with their body language, and then he does that through very delicate but controlled push pull of the outer line. So like he'll have like here he'll be very careful how he does an outer line, then he pushes in and pulls out. It's very subtle, but yet he's able because he's able to do it that way. It enables him also to add some caricature to the faces and over exaggerate. Like somebody getting punched, and he's able to like take like in a very cartoony way, like take like this cheekbone and just like completely push it into the nose all but to show the impact of the punch hitting into the face. So I've always looked at Angel, and after when I first time I met him, and I've only met him once. I said to him how like I was envious of him, how he's able to do that, how he's able to do that, that animated characterization to his character, so it still looks you can still tell it's the same person, and maintain a level of consistency of person's A face versus person B's face. But he's just very good with his characterization of how he does characters within doing a realistic drawing. So of course, gotta have him sign it. So okay, yeah, I think that's all. I might let's see here. I might pull in just a little bit. Let's see here. So yeah, that works. Just hit a little bit, so you still have. Yeah, that does work. So okay, so moving right along. So we'll go down to mom here, and we'll start working on her. So make sure I'm up in the screen here. So, but yeah, that was the first day of the week with Super Soldiers. And then after that, we do Spider Island Avengers #1 on day 258, signed by Mike McCoon. I wanted this one to be shown because this was when it was like I didn't know what the whole deal was with the whole Spider Island thing. Um, the impression I got was everybody somehow I don't know, everybody ended up with spider powers, and so it was just this was like a one issue series or one issue one shot associated with the event, and how like I said everybody had these like have spider powers, but they're not sure how to use them. And one of the characters in this story was Frogman, and Frogman I first was introduced. It was a one issue story in Amazing Spider-Man where he goes up against the Toad, and I just found it very entertaining story. And so when it was the story was an Amazing Spider-Man, so when I flipped through this and saw it had the frog in it, I'm like, oh wow, I haven't seen the frog since the Amazing Spider-Man story. Let's get it. So I got it, and it is a bit of a goof story, but it's one of those like I said, it was like I was like, oh, this is and how and again, he's a useless character, and like how he defeats the bad guy is he is scared and he ends up throwing up all over the bad guy. Which yeah, it's one of those where it's like that's not very heroic, but for a one-off story, you think about it. Some of the hardest things for a writer is we need you to do a one-issue story associated with this event with with these characters, with some Avengers characters, and it's like, okay, how the hell do I do this? It's a one story. Doesn't really mean it doesn't have a guy can't really do anything with a lot of these characters because other writers are working on them within their own title, and so I've got to come up with a story. So it's just like a one-off story, and Mike McCoon did it. And this is also where, looking at it, it's important to look at this also. And I like Mike McCoon's stuff, but this issue to me really illustrates to me that Mike McCoon's artwork is at his best when someone else is inking him. Ever since he started, like towards the end of his career, when he started inking himself, I didn't find the artwork to be as good as, say, when Mark McKenna was inking. I thought Mark McKenna and Mike McCoon were their styles complemented each other, and Mark's inks heavily complemented Mike McCoon's uh, art style. But seeing this issue without Mark's inks, I don't think the artwork is as strong as when Mark was doing him. So, but and then from there we go into day 259, Squadron Sinister number 3. Why am I being so dramatic in how I say that? Because it's the Squadron Sinister, Hyperion, the I don't know the Wonder Woman knockoff character, the Prism guy, and the Flash ripoff. Remember, all these characters were I think it was the Wizard. They were all like knockoffs of DC characters, and that was done intentional. So that way they could have like semi like crossover without having to worry about getting a license and agreement with DC. And this is them as the villains. And this is during the Battle World. Remember when they did the Secret Wars and they created Battle World? This is where the multiverses was ending, and then they're all being eaten up, and Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange with the Molecule Man save what they can of all the different realities and create one called Battle World. This was part of it, and here the Squadron Sinister, they had their own little section of Battle World, and it was next door to the New Universe territory. And of course, you have the Squadron Sinister characters fight the New Universe characters. And of course, everybody knows how much I love the New Universe. What I really like, and I said this to Mark when I had him sign this issue, is I thanked him because even though I'm a huge New Universe fan, and how if a diehard New Universe fan would say that the New Universe characters were done dirty because of how the Squadron Sinister just mop the floor with them. But he knew that. So when he did the story, he used the New Universe characters of all the canceled books. Remember, when Universe started, they had like 7 books, and they canceled, I think, 3 of them. So he used the characters from the canceled books to fight the Squadron Sinister. So you had the Kickers Incorporated, you had Mark Hazard, you had the original version of the Spitfire armor. And so it wasn't like no DP7 characters were harmed in the production of this comic book. You get what I'm saying? No Force characters were used, no DP7 characters, and I appreciate that. And I said, because uh, I was like, but let's be honest. I go, the only thing was because here the way they had it was the Star brand was being shared out to everyone in the new universe. And so it was the Star brand, but they had the Star brand powers, but not as strong as the original Star brand. And I said to him, I said, let's be honest. I said, if Hyperion was going up against uh, uh, Ken O'Connell, uh, in the universe. I said he would have wiped the floor. Starbrand really would have wiped the floor, really give him a real run for his money, and he wouldn't have been able to just kill him just quick and easy. And he kind of looked at me and he goes, "Well," he goes, "the title was called Squadron Sinister." So basically being like, yeah, I mean, if I was really to do it actual, yeah, it wouldn't have gone the way he wrote it, but because it was a Squadron Sinister book, of course they're the ones who are going to win. And I respected the way he said that because he was kind of like, yeah, you're right. But it's a Squadron Sinister book. And of course, it was then used to relaunch Squadron Supreme within the DC line after Secret Wars was over. So, and so of course I had, so yeah, why did I have this one signed? I had this one signed because it was New Universe. So, and then of course we go from there from Squadron Sinister to Squadron Supreme, the miniseries. This is where the Squadron Supreme they've returned from one of their adventures. The team has been away from their reality for a long period of time, and uh, human civilization of their world is at borderline collapse. So they feel that they need to take control and they need to solve the world's problems. And they do that right off the beginning by taking off all their masks and revealing themselves to the world. And uh, there's like the one character, Nightman or Nighthawk. He disagrees with him, so he leaves the team. And of course, we learn later on he's formed his own like resistance team against the Squadron Supreme. And it really was a good standalone miniseries showing how why do we have why is it in comic books we have these people with these great abilities but they don't solve the world's problems, and that's what Squadron Supreme really addressed. And so the first issue I had that one signed by Bob Hall. Now here's the thing, I have like all but like 2 issues of Squadron Supreme signed. The 2 issues that I don't have signed, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get them signed. Because like the one person I could have signed would be Bob Layton. He worked on the one issue where he did the cover, and he doesn't live in the United States anymore. He lives over in Korea. So it's one of those rules like, well, he's not going to be able to unless he does a con, and even if he does a con, I'm sure he's going to charge an arm and a leg for his signature. So that one may not ever get signed. The other one, it's one of those where it's like I don't that none of the artistic talent is around anymore except for maybe like the letterer and the colorist. So maybe I can get one of them to sign it. I don't know. But so no, I have issue 1 was signed by Bob Hall, so I posted that one on day 260. 261 was issue 10, signed by Sam Della Rosa. This is the one I've showed you this one because this is the one where uh, one of the characters, his name is Quagmire. He was a villain, but as they show in the series, I think like issue 4, here what the Squadron Supreme does is their character Tom Thumb. He comes up with a mind control device. So anybody who does like evil thoughts, like a bank robber or a supervillain, they can be put into this mind control machine and they can then be a good person. And again, it's showing how it's like you can't control people because, as it shows later on at the end, in fact, in issue 12, which was day 262, signed again by Sam Del Rosa, uh, Nighthawk gets a hold of the technology or he steals one of their machines and starts using it to deprogram a lot of these villains and how like what they're what the Squadron Supreme's doing wrong. They're taking away human rights. They're making decisions for everybody, and I'm giving it back. But the agreement is I'm giving you back your memories, but I need you to just the play along with the Squadron Supreme until it's time to uh, confront them. So, and again, it was I thought the whole story was very well done. In the end, the Squadron Supreme do realize, yeah, you know what, we really didn't have the right to uh, control everybody. And so I just, like I said, and with Paul Ryan's artwork in the Squadron Supreme, at the later half of the series, um, I just love his artwork. So it's like, that's another. So Squadron Supreme before and DP7, before I started getting them all signed, I always had Squadron Supreme and DP7 set aside, and they're in their own box because I go through them and read them so much. So and that's the way it always was until I started to get books signed. So those issues that aren't signed by Squadron Supreme, they're still sitting in that box with DP with all my DP7 books. So, but so yeah, I mean that's so that squadron. This is the week of the Squadron Supreme or Squadron Sinister Squadron, however you want to phrase it. So this is the week of the Supremes, and then or week of the Squadron, and then the last day of the week, which was day 263, was The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, American Nightmares #2, signed by Mike Perkins and Laura Martin. And again, this is one of those where uh, I had I don't have a lot of these issues signed. I got maybe like 4 from this whole series signed, and I got the issues signed based on the parts of the book I liked most. And this is the issue that if you've ever read the book The Stand, Stephen King spent like he wrote like a small chapter or the start of the next, or maybe like half a chapter, talking about after the plague had gone through and wiped everybody out, and you had those that were immune and you had those that died. He talks about the Darwin effect. And these are the people that were immune to the Captain Trips disease, but yet they still died from natural events. One was this one woman. She never wanted to be married. She felt she's being held down by, never wanted to be married, didn't want to have kids, being held down by having a husband and kids. That when her husband and kids died, she put them into a meat locker. And what she'd do is sometimes she'd go in there just to like look at them and kind of like scoff at them, how like you guys held me back and now I'm free of you. Well, here she ends up getting locked into the meat locker with them, so she dies. There's one about a little boy, how he was immune to the Captain Trips, but it's just a little boy, and he fell down a well and died. One was about a junkie who had he he was immune, but here he got higher in his own supply and he overdosed. So those type of stories I thought was very interesting about that concept uh, of the Stand. So this is the issue where Mike Perkins drew that all out, because when they did the original miniseries, they didn't include that in the miniseries. And so, because remember, the miniseries is like an abridged version of the Stand. And I do remember that I think it was like when Stephen King first wrote the Stand, it was too big, and so the book publisher made him edit it down. So there's 2 versions that were produced. There was the edited version, and then there was the whole version. And now these days, if you were to get the book, you're getting the whole version. But back when it first was released and printed, it was a edited version. And so I'm certain that this was probably in that edited version. So the fact that they were able to include that in the comic book, I was very appreciative of that. So this was one of the books I made certain I had Mike Perkins and Laura Martin sign. And I told each one of them at the time when I had them sign it that that's the reason why I was having them sign this issue of it. So, to everybody who's stayed through to the very end of my video, thank you very much. I hope you will uh, do me a favor and give me a like on the video. So it will help me out. If you want, comment. Maybe I got something wrong. Correct me, please. So, and I'll see you tomorrow or on Sunday. I will be doing another video because I was away. I'm essentially a week behind. So I'll be doing another video tomorrow talking about the books that I posted this week. And anybody that's been going and liking my and looking at these books on Twitter, uh, if you go back and look at day 264, you'll know it's one of those books where I'm like, oh yeah. Because remember, I get the books I like and I want. I don't go get the books that might have big value. The biggest example I give is, let's say, Spider-Man. Uh, there might be an issue of Spider-Man, an issue that Mark Bagley did, and it's one of those where it's like this one here where he fought Venom and da 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 da, and it's got Carnage. This was a really popular book, and it still has value. So if you get signatures, increases the value. Don't care. I want him to sign this issue of Cyforce instead because that's one of my favorite books. I always get books signed that I really like, and I get the books that I like and as the characters I like. So like it's one of those where it's like, let's say it's a Captain America book, and Mark Bagley did it, but it said this issue of Captain America where he has a toe-to-toe fight with the Red Skull. Well, that's nice, but I want this one signed where he fights Red Wolf, the Indian, because I liked Red Wolf. So that's the reason why I'm going to have him sign this one instead of that one. So always get the books always get the books you like signed as opposed to a book that potentially will have value. And I think that because everyone else is getting it. So it's one of those where like there'll always be a. Here's the example I'll give you. Okay, X-Men. Okay, X-Men annuals. The issue annual 9 and annual 10. Okay, done by Art Adams. I bet you every single person in the world is a big X-Men fan and likes to get books signed has all gotten those books signed. I have. Okay, so obviously there's always going to be a glut that for me it's always going to be like there's always going to be that book will always you'll always be able to find that and there'll always be like uh, a bidding war to the bottom to sell that book. So as opposed to me having Gumby's Winter Adventure signed by Art Adams. So, but okay, guys, we're hitting a half hour. I know. I'm starting to get to the point where my videos are like a half hour long instead of uh, 15, 20 minutes. So I apologize for that. So, but you guys have a great day. You know I'm having a great day. And remember, as always, take life one dot at a time. Thank you.